When was the last time you felt someone's respect for you vanish in real time? I am not talking about a major confrontation, but about that micro-expression on the other person's face. That moment when your opinion, once heard, suddenly becomes background noise. Or perhaps it was a decision of yours, a perfectly logical one, that you found yourself forced to justify and defend to the point of exhaustion, feeling your authority dilute with every word. If you have ever felt the silent frustration of being the nice guy who gets pushed aside, or felt that your voice simply does not carry the weight it should in a room, understand one thing: respect is rarely lost in grand battles. It is lost in small leaks, unconscious leaks of status and power that you emit without realizing it. The problem is not your intention. Your intention is to be collaborative, transparent, reasonable. But in the silent game of social dynamics, good intentions can be decoded as weakness. In this video, we are going to decode the psychology behind why people lose respect for you. We are not going to talk about superficial tips. We are going to analyze 5 unconscious mistakes, rooted in behavioral psychology and neuroscience, that are sabotaging your authority. The goal here is not to create a mask or pretend to be someone you are not. The goal is to give you the tools so that your internal competence and confidence can manifest without the blockage of signals that position you as someone of low status. We are going to analyze each of these mistakes, understand the pain they cause, the psychological trigger that activates them, and most importantly, how to recalibrate your behavior to command the respect you deserve. The final answer is not about what to do, but about who you need to become. 1. The error of excessive justification. Why explaining your decisions dilutes your authority. Let us start with the first and perhaps the most counterintuitive of these errors. It happens the moment you make a decision and immediately feel an internal compulsion to build a case, to present a dossier of logical arguments for everyone to validate. It is the pain of the man who believes that logic and total transparency generate respect. You present your reasons one by one, hoping to be seen as someone rational and cooperative. But in the silent language of power, the message sent is different. You subcommunicate that your word, alone, does not have enough weight, that your decision needs a life vest of explanation so it does not sink under the scrutiny of others. You are unconsciously asking for their approval. This creates a status short circuit. You offer a detailed explanation expecting to be perceived as intelligent, but the result is the opposite. Your authority is diluted, and you are decoded as insecure, someone who needs permission to occupy their own space. Think of archetypes of power, like Harvey Specter. When he announces a decision, he does so with a sense of finality. The explanation, if it comes, is a strategic choice, not a nervous reaction to the possibility of being questioned. He operates from a framework where his authority is a given, not something that needs to be proven in every interaction. His confidence is not in the quality of his justification, but in the certainty of his judgment. See the difference in a practical scenario, like a work meeting. Compare the statement, "We are moving the deadline to Friday," with, "Look, everyone. Think we should move the deadline to Friday because the design team is a bit behind, and I saw the progress report, and if we do not do this, we might have an integration problem." The first sentence is an act of command. The second is an invitation to debate and doubt. It positions you as just another opinion at the table, not as the leadership. The hidden desire of someone who overjustifies is to be seen as infallible. But, paradoxically, it is this very need to appear perfect that conveys weakness. The first step to sealing this power leak is to become comfortable with finality, to deliver your decision in a clean, precise, and economical way. True authority does not need to explain itself. It simply is. 2. Body status leakage. How a lack of economy of movement subcommunicates anxiety and low power. If the first error dilutes your authority through words, the second one destroys it before you even open your mouth. We are talking about the status leak that happens through the body. It is the deep pain of feeling that your body betrays you in moments of pressure. Your mind projects the perfect speech, but your physical presence communicates the exact opposite. It is that feeling of being physically uncomfortable, small, and inadequate in a meeting room or in an important social interaction. This happens because your body is emitting a storm of reactive signals, quick and unnecessary movements, the shaking of a leg, the drumming of fingers on a phone, facial tics, Constant adjustments to clothing are decoded by the primitive brain of those observing you as nervousness and a total lack of control. Every wasted movement is a leak of energy that subcommunicates a brutal truth. The pressure of the environment is greater than your internal capacity to absorb it. Observe the presence of an archetype like Tommy Shelby. His movements are economical and charged with intention. He does not rush. His calmness is a weapon, a pause before answering, a gaze that holds steady, a slow and deliberate movement to pick up a glass. Each gesture is a declaration that he is in absolute control of the time and space around him. He dominates the environment. The environment does not dominate him. In a world that reacts, his calculated stillness is the ultimate power. Bring this to a real scenario, a job interview. Candidate A enters the room, sits down, and his hands find a place to rest. His movements are minimal and purpose-driven. Candidate B sits on the edge of the chair. His legs shake, his hands fidget, touching his face, his hair, the pen. Even if both give identical answers, who do you believe is more prepared to handle the pressure of the job? Candidate B's body is screaming anxiety, undermining any word of confidence that comes out of his mouth. The desire to project unshakable calm and natural authority begins here. The goal is not the rigidity of a statue, but the elimination of bodily noise. It is the physical manifestation of a calm and focused mind. Start sealing this leak by practicing intentional stillness. In your next conversation, bring awareness to your tics. Reduce them. When you master your movements, you begin to master the perception of power in the room. 3. The collaborative language trap. The words that signal permission to be ignored. We have sealed the leaks of excessive justification and the leaks of the body. Now, let us dive into a more treacherous error, because it disguises itself as a social virtue. It is the trap of what we call collaborative language. It is the language of "I just think that," of "could we maybe consider," and the most fatal of all, of "I am sorry to bother you, but." This is the classic pattern of the nice guy who operates under the belief that being ultra-diplomatic and harmless is the path to respect and cooperation. The pain here is brutally ironic. You strive to be agreeable and not create friction, but the result is that you become invisible. Your ideas, even if they are the most brilliant in the room, are presented in such a fragile package, so full of hesitation, that they become easy to crumple up and throw away. You enter wanting to be a team player and leave being treated as someone whose opinion carries no weight. The social trigger at play here is the creation of an implicit hierarchy. Every conversation establishes a power frame. By using this hesitant language, you voluntarily kneel. You hand over the higher status to the other person, on a platter, even before the real interaction begins. You are essentially saying, "My perspective is secondary. Feel free to ignore or dominate me." And people, instinctively, accept your offer. Compare this with the communication of an authority figure. Her language is declarative. It is not, "I think this is the best option." It is, "This is the best option." It is not, "Could we focus here?" It is, "Our focus is this." The language does not ask for permission to occupy space. It occupies it. This does not eliminate collaboration. On the contrary, it establishes a strong starting point from which collaboration can occur. Let us bring it to your reality. In a discussion with your team, instead of saying, "Guys, sorry, just one little thing. I was thinking that maybe if we tried it another way," pause and recalibrate. Present the same idea with a power structure. "I have an alternative solution. Approach X will give us more efficiency. I want to hear the potential problems with this route." The first version apologizes for the existence of your idea. The second establishes it as a fact and invites a high-level analysis, not an emotional validation. The desire here is clear: to be assertive without being perceived as aggressive. The key is not to soften your speech even more, but to make it clean and direct. Remove the apologetic preambles. Eliminate the maybes and the "I thinks." The language you use not only reflects your internal reality, it builds it. Start using language that builds a reality of authority and respect. 4. The reality frame test. Do you impose your perspective or constantly react to others? The errors we have seen so far are power leaks. This fourth error, however, is the very cracked foundation upon which power is built. It is the error of perpetually living in reaction to the framing of reality, of others, instead of imposing your own. Think of the frame as the context, the lens through which a situation is viewed. In every interaction, there is a silent battle to define which frame will dominate. The person who controls the frame controls the reality of that interaction. The pain here is that of feeling constantly on the defensive, like a soccer player who spends the entire game in his own half, just fending off the opponent's attacks. You become the firefighter for others' crises, the solver of others' problems. Your life becomes a series of reactions to the agendas, questions, and panics of those around you. It is the feeling of exhaustion from feeling that your life is controlled by external forces. This leads us to a fundamental diagnosis of personal power. Your locus of control. Is it internal or external? Are you the cause or the effect? He who lives reacting has an external locus of control. He believes that power and rules come from the outside. He who commands respect operates from an internal locus of control. He understands that he dictates the rules of his own reality. Archetypes of power are masters of frame control. When someone comes to them with an urgent problem, their first reaction is not panic. It is a pause. It is recalibration. They take the other's problem and redefine it in their own terms. If an adversary says, "You are finished," they do not react to the defeat frame. They impose a new frame. "You just made a fatal mistake by underestimating me." They do not play the game presented to them. They force everyone to play their game. Transfer this to your world. Your client calls you and says, "I need you to reduce your price by 20%, or we will sign with your competitor." His frame is, "I have the power. You are in a position of weakness." The reactive response is to justify your price or give in. The response that controls the frame is, "I understand your position. My price reflects the value and the superior result I deliver, something the competitor cannot guarantee. The issue is not the cost, but the risk of an inferior outcome. I am willing to discuss payment terms, but the value of my work is this." You did not accept the price frame. You imposed a frame of value and risk. You took control of the narrative. Reclaiming respect is reclaiming agency. It is the conscious decision to stop being a reactive character in others' plays and become the author of your own. Before any interaction, define your intention. What is your frame? What is the outcome you command? Imposing your perspective is not arrogance. It is being the architect of your domain. 5. The neuroscience of external validation. How the search for approval addicts your brain to low-status behaviors. We have arrived at the fifth and final error, and it is the root cause, the central programming from which all other errors are just symptoms. Excessive justification, a reactive body, hesitant language, and surrendering your frame. All of this is born from a single source, the neurological addiction to external validation. The pain here is the deepest, as it seems like a character flaw. It is the feeling of being trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage. You know what you should do, but in the moment of pressure, an internal force pulls you to the safe path, the path of pleasing. You feel addicted to approval, even when it costs you your self-respect. And the reason for this is not weakness. It is chemistry. Let us decode what happens in your brain. Every time you adopt a low-status behavior, apologizing without reason, yielding in a negotiation too early, and receive a micro-signal of approval in return, a smile, a relief in the room's tension, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and reward. Your brain learns a dangerous and addictive equation. Submission leads to social acceptance, which leads to chemical reward. This reinforcement loop trains you, day after day, to associate servile behaviors with a feeling of pleasure, actively sabotaging the construction of a high and sustainable long-term status. It is not you who is addicted to pleasing. It is your reward system that has been miscalibrated by the social environment. Men of high status and power break this cycle. Their validation is generated internally. Their reward system does not fire with the approval of others, but with the act of adhering to their own principles and decisions. Satisfaction comes from self-mastery, not from external acceptance. Think about the hesitation you feel before disagreeing with a popular opinion in a group. That fear, that anxiety, is your brain anticipating the dopamine withdrawal crisis that social disapproval can cause. Every time you remain silent to avoid this discomfort, you strengthen the addiction. You teach your brain that the security of approval is more important than the need for respect. Therefore, breaking this cycle is the real game to be played. The desire to build unshakable self-confidence is, in fact, the desire to reprogram this neurological dependency. It is not about fighting your biology, but about using it in your favor. To start seeking and celebrating the dopamine that comes not from being accepted, but from being authentic. The reward that comes from defending your position, from standing firm in your values, and from acting, not in search of approval, but in alignment with the man you have decided to become. We have traveled a deep path today. We have dissected 5 power leaks that silently erode the respect others have for you. The central truth is this: respect is not lost in explosions but in drips. Drips of insecurity that manifest as justifications, as reactive movements, as a language that asks for permission to exist. So, what is the action plan? How do you seal these leaks and start rebuilding your authority from today? Let us summarize the transformation not as a list of tricks, but as 5 new principles of personal mastery. First, mastery over explanation. Practice economy of words. Let the strength of your decisions speak for itself. Your Sakri. Authority does not need an instruction manual. Second, mastery over movement. Your calmness is a weapon. Eliminate bodily noise. Practice intentional stillness and communicate control and power before you even open your mouth. Third, mastery over language. Your words create your reality. Remove the apologetic preambles and hesitation. Use declarative, clean, and direct language that positions your ideas as worthy of consideration. Fourth, mastery over reality. Be the cause, not the effect. Stop reacting to the frame of others and start imposing your own. Before any interaction, know what outcome you command. And fifth, mastery over your biology. Recognize the addiction to external validation and consciously begin to reprogram it. Reward yourself not for being accepted, but for being true to your own principles, especially under pressure. It is crucial to understand. This is not about becoming a cold person or a calculating robot. It is the exact opposite. It is about removing the layers of noise, the social anxiety, the need for approval, the reactive patterns that today suffocate your true confidence and competence. These techniques are not a mask to hide who you are. They are the tools to liberate who you really are. The respect you so eagerly seek in the external world is not something you can ask for or negotiate. It is a reflection, an inevitable consequence of who you decide to become internally. With every justification you do not give, with every movement you calm, with every word you declare with conviction, you are, brick by brick, building the fortress of your new identity. An unshakable, centered identity that commands respect, not by force, but by an authentic presence. The choice to begin this construction is yours, and it begins now. I would like to know which of these 5 errors resonated most with your experience. Leaving this analysis in the comments is the first step to bringing the unconscious to light. If this content opened your mind to a new way of seeing social dynamics like the video, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. The journey to become a master of your social domain is just beginning.